Kakarot just unlocked a powerful new form, getting a taste of being number one. Turles watched as Kakarot utilized this power to defeat Bojack, and he realized he needs the power for himself. He needs to be number one again. Will Kakarot betray Turles? Will Turles betray Kakarot? Who will come out on top? Part 6 of What If Goku Was Evil starts now. Kakarot enjoys this new power. He's number one here, not just above Turles, but everybody else for that matter. Of course, this isn't the end for him. He's gonna grow even stronger than this. This is only the beginning in his eyes. He enjoys this, and he's still working alongside Turles, not just going on their normal conquest, but trying to help him unlock this form as well. If Turles gets it, it'll only push Kakarot to grow even stronger, because he'll have a training partner that will be as strong as him, and it'll make him want to fight for that number one spot. But their conquest is slowing. They've grown so strong by now with all these fruits that they actually do need to train more. Getting the fruits is not as effective as it once was. And Turles is trying to think of a plan, some way for them to grow stronger and stronger. But he still isn't sure about Kakarot. Can he trust Kakarot with all this power? Well, it's pushing Turles as well, not just Kakarot. And after some more fruits and some training, Turles can feel that power overflowing. Unlike Kakarot, he doesn't need a catalyst here because there's just so much power that he can't contain it anymore. Finally, after all this time, he's able to power up, showcasing his own evil Saiyan form, looking very similar to Kakarot, which makes sense because they kinda already look the same from the get-go. They are both low-class warriors after all. And now that Turles finally has this power, Kakarot asks him to do something that he's been waiting for. They need to have an all-out battle, just to test their abilities and grow stronger in the process. And Turles accepts this. Turles goes to one of the planets they destroyed, since it'll be the perfect fighting ground. It's completely barren now except for the giant tree there. Not that they'd care about collateral damage anyways, but this is a big planet and it lets them have an open space for fighting. No one else is going to get in the way. The two assume a battle stance, and Kakarot chuckles, telling Turles he hopes he can use his full power right from the start. They're not going to pace themselves here. They're going all out right from the beginning. Kakarot screams, and his roar bellows through the entire planet. A fiery red aura surrounds him, and Turles follows suit. The two power up to their maximum in evil Saiyan. They stare each other down briefly, and then the battle begins. The rest of the Neo Crusher Corps are watching from space. This is also a good message to show them who the leaders are. They already know that Turles and Kakarot were very strong, but this only shows that they're even stronger than they thought. Instilling fear within them, but also giving them some entertainment at the same time. Although it's not too entertaining after a certain point because Turles and Kakarot are just moving so quickly that they can't even see it. Some soldiers even try using old scouters to see their power levels, but they just explode. They can't process how strong these two Saiyans are now. The planet is scorched as the two battle. Every time they clash, a shockwave of energy leaves a massive crater behind, sending debris flying into space. All that could be seen from space is flashes of red light, and that's every time the two Saiyans clash. Trails of light from where they traveled surround the entire planet, and very quickly, the planet is scarred even further by this battle. Even the tree that was left behind is completely scorched by this, combusting into basically a giant wildfire. Then explosions start occurring. The two start using Ki Blast. But there's an issue here. They're so powerful by now that if they keep fighting, this planet's gonna be destroyed and they're both gonna die. So at the last moment, they end up having to retreat, calling the battle off. But this battle did show them something pretty interesting. Kakarot's ahead, but only by a slight amount. Turles is catching up, and quick. The two are glad to have the battle. Both are a little bit beaten up too. It was fun to utilize their full power for once and gauge their strength, not just for themselves, but the other person that they're with. They each have an idea of how strong they are. And this gets Kakarot even more motivated. He begins working more on his own. He needs to keep that number one spot. He needs more strength. He needs to get this in any way possible. And Turles notices this too. But he's also kind of in the same boat. He sees how close he is to Kakarot, and knows that he could overthrow him once again. He starts doing the same, working more for himself, also trying to get stronger in whatever way he could think of. The two are growing less trusting of each other in their lust for power, and each of them thinks, maybe it's better to get rid of the other while they can. Kakarot was a means to an end for Turles at first, but Turles did grow to trust him, although that trust has diminished. Maybe Vegeta was right, maybe he shouldn't have taken Kakarot into his crew, and Kakarot thinks he might be better off on his own, but he knows that if he's not attached to Turles, Turles will probably hunt him down and kill him. Not to mention, he'd be leaving this entire army. He wants that influence as well, and he can sense that Turles is probably trying to move against him. It takes a while. Months and months pass, but the two begin noticing this more and more. They're becoming farther apart. It's not like they were friends in the first place, but they were comrades, and they were trusting of each other a little bit at least. But the two of them are corrupted by their strength, and this pursuit of more strength is only corrupting them even further. It was only a matter of time before this became apparent. The two only work for themselves, not for others. They never really were allies. I mean, remember how Turles met Kakarot in the first place? He wiped out the entire Ginyu Force, and pushed Kakarot into his idea of trying to kill Vegeta and Nappa, as well as Raditz, who got away. Of course, Kakarot wasn't too fond of the Saiyans or the Ginyu Force, but that was a much more stable crew in his eyes. He could have stayed with it. He didn't really have a choice but to join Turles. Had he not, Turles probably would have killed him. Even though he did join on his own accord, he thinks back on it. Imagine a case where he weren't willing to join Turles. he would be dead by now. This falling out eventually leads to a power struggle, with each of them trying to take over the Neo Crusher core, and another battle ensues, although this time, it's a battle to the death. It's not just an all-out battle that's a sparring match. This is a death match. The two of them are trying to kill each other. Turles tells Kakarot he shouldn't have gotten so greedy. They could have avoided this. They could have been a great crew. And Kakarot responds, what, did Turles want him to be a subordinate forever? Kakarot wasn't going to inhibit his growth just for Turles' gain. And he questions it. Why would Turles want him to be subordinate anyways? Does he not trust Kakarot? And Turles says he doesn't. He hasn't for a while. That trust has been diminishing. But Kakarot knows that this is deeper than that. Turles was jealous and fearful of Kakarot's power, and Kakarot mentions this. He knows that Turles wants it for himself. He wants to be the undisputed number one again. And Kakarot says that era is over. The two find another abandoned planet to fight on, and this time, they don't care if the planet's going to explode. Whoever dies, dies, even if it means both of them are going to die. They're each fighting for themselves and nobody else. This battle is even more violent and explosive than the last one. Not only have they grown stronger since then, but now of course they're trying to kill each other too, so there's that element added onto it. The two showcase their maximum strength, and Kakarot yells out at Turles. Why couldn't Turles let him grow stronger? Why did Turles want him to be a subordinate? And Turles says he's seen how Kakarot acted with others. Once Kakarot got the power, Turles didn't know what he was going to be capable of with it. Maybe he was going to take over the Crusher Core. Maybe he was going to try to kill Turles. He didn't know. But unfortunately, this was a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it just shows that the distrust went deeper than they thought. They both distrusted each other from the get-go, and never even realized it. And each thought the other was going to make a move against them, but really, that wasn't going to happen. They each contributed to that, and neither of them realized it. The two could have been a good crew, but now this falling out has to occur. It's too late, and they're each in too deep. The two are bloodied and beaten. Kakarot disappears from Turles' sight, and he senses a flare-up of energy, looking up into the sky. Kakarot immediately moved up there, launching a Dodonpa towards Turles. Turles counters with his own blast, as Kakarot then launches a second Dodonpa, with both merging together and growing into one powerful beam, and Turles is shocked. It's the first time he's seen Kakarot use that move in a while. Not that it really matters, it's just another beam that he could fight. But he's been so used to using the moves that Turles had. The ground erupts below Turles, a giant storm from Kakarot. He's never seen this before. Kakarot follows up by randomly launching a ton of blasts. That's Vegeta's technique, and he's actually kind of overwhelming Turles. Turles counters with his own sudden storm, countering every ki blast from Kakarot, but Kakarot disappears once more, and now he's right in front of Turles. Kakarot lifts a single hand up in the air, charging purple electricity between them. Point blank, he launches a Shining Friday. Turles is barely able to counter in time, charging a Calamity Blaster to try and counter it. But he has a plan, a way to end this quickly. The two beams explode as they connect, and Turles jumps back. Quickly in his hands, he charges a Kill Driver, but instead of launching it at Kakarot, he lunges it right into the core of the planet itself, and then rushes towards his ship. The ground shakes, Kakarot loses balance, but he floats up, seeing what Turles did. What a coward! He blew up the planet. That's how he's going to retreat. The two of them are bloodied and beaten, both on their last legs, out of energy. But this was the most decisive move for Turles. It's the only way to finish this. At the very least, it lets him escape, but at best, he might be able to kill Kakarot with it. By the time Kakarot realizes what's happening, Turles already made it to the other side of the planet, getting in a ship and departing. And now, Kakarot needs to get into his, but the planet's exploding at a quick rate. He barely has any energy left, even de-transforming and going to his base form. Turles is able to make it back to the Crusher Core, while Kakarot is left to die on this planet. Thankfully, he is able to get onto his ship, barely being able to escape, and he has to completely avoid the Crusher Core, because if he goes anywhere near them, they could simply shoot down his ship, leaving him to die in space. Turles is already safe, probably on the mothership, but Kakarot right now he could be taken down by a single measly blast, one that just destroys his ship. He steers clear of them, drifting off into space as he loses consciousness. He wakes up in the middle of nowhere, and his ship tells him that he's far away from that planet that they were just at. So what's he supposed to do now? Turles is still at the Crusher Core, so he has them, and Kakarot is just abandoned. The thing is too, they might be able to track his ship. He disables any tracking that he could find on there. The ship that he's using is one that he's been using for a while, and wasn't actually made by the Crusher Core. So that's at least a start. It seems like he is undercover. In his ship he finds a scouter, looking around trying to find any planets nearby. Well, he could go to Earth. Going back there might work, but he doesn't really know if that'll be beneficial for him. It would be a good place to lay low, but Kakarot needs to act now. Even though he wants to lay low, he still needs to do something in the meantime. He needs to grow stronger. Earth? He wasn't growing strong there. He can't go back, at least not yet. I mean, maybe he could try and pursue those Dragon Balls, but he's not sure what's happened on Earth since. Maybe it's completely in disarray. But that reminds him, the Dragon Balls. Maybe they exist somewhere else too. Earth is a little out of the ways right now, so even then it might not be feasible. And that's if the Dragon Balls are active. Maybe they were used recently, or maybe something happened to them. He doesn't want to take that risk. He needs to know for sure that he can get them. So instead, he decides to track down someone who he knows he could probably work with. His scouter still has the contact on there. and he doesn't think it's going to work, but he tries it. He starts a call with Raditz. This is the one person he might be able to connect with again, and maybe he can make things right. Just as I mentioned before, Kakarot didn't really have a choice with Turles. Yeah, he did willingly go with him, and he did like it, but there was no other option. If he decided he didn't want to go with Turles, that would have been the end of the story. Kakarot would have died right then and there. And it's a long shot, but he hopes this works. And surprisingly, Raditz does pick up, still having his scouter. He's both surprised and angered to hear from Kakarot, and Kakarot explains what happened. He knows how betrayal feels, and while he wants to be number one, he's not used to working alone. But Raditz says he can't trust Kakarot. He betrayed the Saiyans, but Kakarot explains everything too. And he mentions, there's a reason he didn't try and go after Raditz, only Vegeta and Nappa. And Raditz considers this for a moment. He never thought of it that way. He knew that he was spared, whether that be accidentally or purposefully, and it seems it was purposeful. Turles and Kakarot could have killed Raditz much easier than they killed Vegeta and Nappa. And actually, getting rid of Vegeta and Nappa was good for Raditz. He's off on his own now, not being mocked and ridiculed by them. But he's in a similar situation to the one Kakarot was in when he first met Turles. He doesn't have a choice here. If he says no to Kakarot, who knows? What if Kakarot will track him down and probably kill him? He's not going to be able to defend himself against Kakarot. So he either says no and risks that, or he says yes and joins up with Kakarot. And even then, that's risky. Kakarot wants to team up with him, find someone to help him defeat Turles, and Kakarot can show him new powers that he's never had before. The two don't bond that well, but they have something that everyone else doesn't. They're related by blood. That still holds them together. They're two low-class warriors, and they're brothers. Not that Saiyans hold their family very highly or anything, but that at least ties them together more than Kakarot was with Turles, or with Vegeta and Nappa for that matter. They're both low-class Saiyans that were used as a means to an end, and Raditz reluctantly accepts working with Kakarot after some explaining and some discussing. Turles is a common enemy after all. Even though Raditz doesn't like working with Kakarot, maybe he could learn to like it. He's actually with another crew now though, and that's the issue. And Kakarot's surprised. What crew's he with? They killed the Hera clan, and Kakarot remembers a similar group called the Heaters or something, but they're very weak and never got in the way of the Crusher Corps. There's also some rumor floating around that Frieza has an estranged brother, but Raditz says it's not him either. And that at least puts Kakarot's mind at ease because he doesn't know if that rumor's true or not. Alright, so what faction is he with then? And Raditz asks Kakarot, has he ever heard of the Namekians? Of course he has. But what does that have to do with anything? Is he on planet Namek or something? Well, not quite. He's working with a Namekian. Actually, someone who considers himself a super Namekian, trying to seek more power. It's a guy by the name of Lord Slug. Kakarot's never heard of him before, but whatever, if he's strong, maybe their crews can work together. And that's the thing. Raditz says Kakarot probably isn't stronger than Lord Slug. And Kakarot laughs at this notion. He begs to differ. There's no way a Namekian could be that strong. And he can tell just by the way Raditz is explaining everything, this isn't an ideal setup for him. He doesn't want to work under Lord Slug. This invite to Kakarot, it's a way for them to rise up against this crew. Raditz only joined basically to have a steady job and a way to survive. And it's weird to think that a Namekian is that strong that he keeps a Saiyan oppressed like that. Does it mean Raditz is just really weak, or is Lord Slug actually very strong? Because Raditz definitely has grown stronger since then. There's no way he hasn't. At least in Kakarot's mind he thinks so. But they're gonna see for themselves. Kakarot flies over to where Raditz is, meeting up with his brother again after a while. And it's a really weird reunion. And just to make sure there's no suspicion, Raditz does need to introduce him to Lord Slug. Although, Lord Slug's not here at the moment. He doesn't exactly know where Slug went, but apparently it's something important. So they get in contact with Lord Slug, and he sees Kakarot on video. Another Saiyan, Raditz's brother. That could be a very good addition to his crew. He assumes he's probably around the same strength as Raditz, so he accepts it. He doesn't see Kakarot as a threat, and if anything, that'll help Raditz be much more efficient. He's already a fine soldier in his crew. But any improvements are welcome, and Slug gets off the call very quickly. It was a very brief meeting, and Kakarot doesn't really know why. Raditz is a little confused too. He doesn't know what Slug is up to, but it's probably something that they're not going to benefit from. Especially with him being so unfazed by Kakarot joining the crew, maybe it's something they have to be concerned about. Where is he? And Raditz tells Kakarot this. Now that they're in person, they could discuss. And it's just like Kakarot thought. They could overthrow Lord Slug together. And not only that, they'll grow strong enough to overthrow Turles, finally killing him for good. But Raditz is still unsure. He tells Kakarot he's grown much stronger since their last encounter. He's working to become a Super Saiyan. His power has increased dramatically, but he still doesn't have this form yet, if it even is a form or whatever. And that's very interesting to Kakarot. He tells Raditz he's discovered something interesting. It definitely isn't Super Saiyan. It's something else. Some sort of weird mutation they got from eating fruits from the Tree of Might. And that's actually good news because he does have some seeds left from the Tree of Might. He powers up, showing off Evil Saiyan to Raditz. And Raditz's jaw drops. At the same time, Turles is out there plotting his next move. Maybe they need to move on from planets. What if there was a way to plant the Tree of Might on stars or something? It's outlandish, but it could be possible. Anything is with him. He doesn't know what Kakarot's up to, but he knows it's probably not good. and he'll get ahead of that any way possible. He'll absorb the power of stars for himself now, moving up, maybe even galaxies next, maybe the universe. It's limitless, and Turles is hyped up. As Turles plots his next move, and Kakarot meets up with Raditz, this is where we'll leave off for now. So, what did you guys think about this part? What do you think is going to happen next time, especially between Kakarot, Raditz, and the Lord Slug? Let me know your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below. I'll be sure to check them out to see what you guys think. As always, if you liked the video, be sure to drop a like. And let's try to hit that like goal from the beginning of the video so we can get another part of this story. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, as well as hitting the bell icon to be notified about any future uploads on my channel, including more parts of this series or any other videos like it. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.